Good morning. Welcome to another edition of DNA in Vanik Bangla. My name is Rahul, and we will start the newspaper analysis for today. The topic is based on the rising inequality. Rising inequality per se isn't a big problem if economic growth raises income overall. Means pie is basically the circular thing. This is the pie, right? And it is divided into different parts. Okay, so grow the pie. So if we can grow the pie, then the division will not be made into smaller parts, rather the division will be with higher share. So rising inequality. Now inequality is something which is rising in this country, and post covid the inequality is becoming more and more with the people in the country. It's becoming more and more with the people in the country. So the article says rising inequality isn't a big problem. अगर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ होता है तो हमारा inequality will be made up. So let's look at the first paragraph. Oxfam International and its India unit recently brought out two separate reports on the same subject, inequality. So Oxfam and its India unit, Oxfam is a British organization और उसका इंडिया यूनिट brought out two separate reports on the same subject, inequality. दो अलग अलग report. It's a politically salient topic and understandably generates debate. So salient means relevant. Salient means relevant topic. Salient is relevant. It's a relevant topic and it understandably creates a debate. It understandably creates a debate. Right. So salient is relevant. Okay. However, the suggestions in Oxfam's reports don't capture the nuances of the problem, and therefore their solutions are unworkable. ये जो report आया, it the reports, they don't capture the nuances. Nuances means finer areas. Nuances means finer areas. Nuances means finer areas, the different fine shades. That means nuances. Okay, so it's since it is not covering the finer nuances, so naturally the report is, therefore there is no solution and the solutions are unworkable. None of this is to suggest that concentration of economic growth or wealth is good. If economic wealth is concentrated, then it's okay, right? It doesn't suggest that concentration of economic wealth is good. An economy in the grip of oligarchs will stagnate and shut off opportunities for everyone. Oligarch means oligarch is this means power and control of the economy by a few people. That's called oligarch. So the system is called oligarchy. So an economy in the grip of oligarchs will stagnate and shut off opportunities for everyone. सो पैसा तो रह जाएगा बहुत कम लोगों के हाथ में, वो बहुत पैसा बनाएंगे, मगर इसमें क्या होगा, ये धीरे धीरे इकोनॉमी को स्टैग्नेट करेगा, इकोनॉमी ग्रो नहीं करेगा एंड शट ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज, और सबके लिए जो अपॉर्चुनिटीज, সবার জন্য যে সুযোগটা পাওয়া দরকার আজকে ইকোনমিকে গ্রো করার জন্য, সেটা বন্ধ হয়ে যাবে। দ্য ইস্যু হাউএভার রিকোয়ার্স পার্সিং। পার্সিং মিন্স ডিটেলড ডিসকাশন। দ্য ইস্যু হাউএভার রিকোয়ার্স parsing. Parsing means detailed discussion. So let's see what happens. Right. So the first paragraph is basically it is showing concern. First paragraph is showing concern. It's showing concern about the inequality. In the economy, where the power is concentrated in the hands of a few people, the money is there in the hands of few people, and the economy is being controlled by a few people. So this is what the first paragraph is. Let's look at the second paragraph. Oxford has followed a popular approach to measure inequality. ऑक्सफोर्ड ने एक पॉपुलर अप्रोच फॉलो किया है टू मेजर inequality. It has used wealth, not income, as the yardstick. So this is very important. We need to look at these words. We need to look at these words, which is right. Popular approach, inequality. It has used wealth. So wealth has been used and not income. इनकम से हमें इनइक्वालिटी मेजर करना है एज द यार्डस्टिक. दिस अप्रोच इज lopsided, means one sided. Lopsided means one sided. Tilted towards one side. So lopsided. This approach is lopsided as it tilts towards using the market value of financial assets, which fluctuate almost every minute. Because most of the investment is in the market with these big players, जो অলিগার্কস লোক হ্যাঁ, ওদের কাছে প্রচুর পয়সা আছে, ওরা মার্কেটে সেই পয়সাটা প্লে করে, তাই। আর মার্কেট যেহেতু শেয়ার মার্কেট হলো বা স্টক মার্কেট হলো, যেহেতু এটা ফ্লাকচুয়েট করে এভরি মিনিট, এটা দিয়ে মেজারমেন্টটা করা কিন্তু যায় না। অক্সফাম ইন্ডিয়া হ্যাজ মেড 3 সাজেশনস ইন দিস কনটেক্সট। তিনটে সাজেশন অক্সফাম ইন্ডিয়া করেছে এই কনটেক্সটে। আমরা সেই তিনটে সাজেশন কি আছে সেটা দেখব। Oxfam India has made 3 suggestions, right? সেই তিনটে সাজেশন কি আছে আমরা দেখব, right? number 1 is suggestion number 1 is it has made a suggestion to ask for better measurements and more regular ones. তার মানে একটা হচ্ছে they have asked for better measurement. So better measurement. And regular ones. So the measurement has to be done regularly. Regular measurements. Right. Good quality statistics are a public good and Government of India needs to raise its game here. So good quality data can be of different qualities. Good quality statistics can be of different types, right? Are a public good and GOI needs to, or the Government of India needs to raise its game here. Raise its game means to focus and concentrate more here, to make it more serious. The other two suggestions pertaining to taxation. The other two suggestions, the other two suggestions are pertaining to taxation. How taxation is done on the oligarchs of the rich and the wealthy people. Oxfam asks for a wealth tax and a temporary 1% surcharge on the richest 10%. So it is talking about wealth tax, whereas it is saying that the measurement should be on the basis of income and not wealth. And sorry, and the government is talking about wealth tax. And what is the wealth tax? 1% of tax on the richest 10%. 1% of tax on the richest 10%. It is the area of taxation that the suggestions consider neither the trade-offs involved nor India's history with wealth tax. Area of taxation that the suggestion considers neither the trade-off involved nor India's history with wealth tax. So this is an area which is not actually dealing with properly related to the trade-offs involved, what are the trade-offs, how the taxation will be done, and the history with wealth tax. India's history with wealth tax has not been taken into consideration, right? So the second paragraph is talking about the incorrect. It is talking about the incorrect measurement. Incorrect measurement of inequality. Incorrect measurement of inequality, right? So what we see is here it is talking about the incorrect measurement of inequality, and Oxford has made three suggestions. One is ask for better management, right? Regulatory measurement, and good quality statistics. They have also asked for good quality statistics, right? So this is the inequality which we are talking about. India did levy a wealth tax. It was abolished in 2015. India, the levying of wealth tax. Now it is talking about the problem of levying the wealth tax. What happened when wealth tax was levied in India previously, right? Now, what happened is that wealth tax was imposed and it was abolished. Wealth tax was abolished in 2015. Wealth tax was abolished in 2015 because it didn't work out properly. It didn't work out properly, union budget. It was a feel-good tax with no meaningful impact. এটা মনে হয়েছিল যে যারা ওয়েলদি অ্যান্ড রিচ আছে, যারা অলিগার্কি এস্টাবলিশ করছেন, তাদের ট্যাক্স করা হলো, ট্যাক্স করা হতে তারা they are benefited from it. However, there was no meaningful impact. There was no meaningful impact, and we can see it here that there was no meaningful impact. So let us see what happened in terms of the meaningful impact of the wealth tax. The first thing is that we have to look at the statistics. To illustrate this, there was no meaningful impact of the wealth tax. To illustrate this, in the last year, 2015-16, Government of India could raise only 1079. They could raise only 1079 crores as wealth tax. That is just rupees 1.4 for every 1000 rupees that accrued through direct taxes. So only 1.4 rupees for every 1000 rupees that was collected through direct taxes. To compensate for its abolition, a surcharge on income above rupees 1 crore was levied. So এই যে অ্যাবলিশন হলো ওয়েলথ ট্যাক্সের, এটাকে কম্পেনসেট করার জন্য একটা সারচার্জ ইম্পোজ করা হলো, রাইট? 1 কোটি টাকার উপরে যারা ইনকাম করে তাদের সারচার্জ। There are practical difficulties in taxing wealth, which has also been influenced by more than decades of loose monetary policy of major central banks that are trying to boost economic growth. এটা কেন হয়েছে? Practical difficulties which have been influenced by more than a decade of loose monetary policy. Monetary policies were not tight, right? And as a result of which, what happened? The monetary policies were loose of major central banks that are trying to boost economic growth. Central banks which are trying to boost economic growth. What really matters is economic growth and the creation of pathways to economic mobility. So there are two things. One is the economic growth, one is economic growth, and the second one is economic mobility. Economic growth and economic mobility, right? This will actually reduce these two will reduce inequality in income and livelihood. In income and livelihood, right? The last paragraph says, post 1991, the rise in India's economic growth is lifted millions out of poverty, even as inequality widened. Now, দুটো জিনিস হয়েছে. One is after 1991, when we had the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which was introduced by the P.V. Narasimha Rao government, right, and implemented by the then finance minister Manmohan Singh. you know, millions went above the poverty line. So millions went above the poverty line. But this also saw, one is people going above poverty line. So people, they went above poverty line, right? But on the other side, the inequality also rose sharply. So these two things, এটা একে অপরের বিপরীত ধর্মী হয়ে যাচ্ছে। ये दोनों में एक correlation नहीं है. Two of them, they are going in opposite direction. Economic growth is indispensable to provide the opportunity of a better life to everyone. So what we need is, we need economic growth which will provide the opportunity, right, for the better life for everyone. So the thing has to be like, if we draw the coordinates, and this is the, the rich, and this is the poor, what has happened is, the graph for the rich one has gone up and the graph for the poor one has gone down. So ideally the graph should be going up together. The graph should be going up together, right? So policy needs to focus on obstacles to growth. So the policy needs to focus on what? Obstacles to growth. It needs to focus on the obstacles to growth, including rent seeking, right? So we need to seek rent. In this context, we need to note that a clutch of US billionaires who draw Oxfam's disapproval didn't inherit their wealth. এখানে wealth creation যেটা বলছে, যার উপর wealth tax করা হবে, it is about wealth creation. It is about wealth creation, not wealth inheritance. It is about wealth creation and not wealth inheritance. Right? It is about wealth creation. They have created wealth, the US billionaires. How have they created wealth? They have created wealth by their ideas. Inherit their wealth. Their ideas created their wealth and millions of other jobs and opportunities. So it was basically ideas. And we know very well, if we look at the US economy, how did it boom? It was people like Steve Jobs of Apple. It was people like Bill Gates of Microsoft. It was companies like Oracle, Adobe, right? And now it is person like Tesla, which belongs to Elon Musk. It was Google, Larry and Sergey Brin, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. So these are companies which created millions and billions of dollars. And these are all companies which grew on certain ideas. So it is not about inherited wealth. These people didn't inherit wealth. They were very, very common people. Right? Now we can also talk about Facebook or Meta by Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg. Right? That's what India needs. That is something exactly what India also needs. That is something exactly what India also needs. Right? Policy focus should be on creating pathways of economic mobility. So the focus should be to create डिफरेंट एवेन्यूज, अलग अलग रास्ता बनाना है जिससे कि इकोनॉमी मूव कर सकता है, आगे बढ़ सकता है। नॉट मेसी टैक्सेशन लॉज। ये जो टैक्सेशन लॉज हैं ये बहुत ही कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, बहुत ही मेसी है, राइट, पूरा घुला हुआ है, राइट। द साइज ऑफ द पाई नीड्स टू ग्रो। बेसिकली we have we have also seen that the heading of this article is grow the pie. Actually what happens, आप अगर देखोगे तो this is the if this is the pie and it is divided into different parts, right? तो आप हैं सेकंड, थर्ड, फोर्थ, फाइव, सिक्स, सेवन, एट, तो these are the shares in the pie. तो अगर इनइक्वालिटी रिमूव करना है तो ये शेयर, मैं अगर किसी का शेयर काट दूं और ये वन जो है, वन का शेयर इसमें बढ़ा दूं, वन का शेयर बढ़ा दूं, तो क्या हो रहा है, कोई एक दूसरा आदमी, उनका इनकम कम हो जा रहा है, वेल्थ कम हो जा रहा है, दूसरा का बढ़ रहा है, विच इज टॉकिंग अबाउट इनइक्वालिटी. बट इफ वी डू समथिंग, इफ वी increase the size of the pie, if we increase the size of the pie, then what happens? Then जो लोग यहाँ पर, people who are having, right, this much share of the pie, the third person, say 1, 2, 3, right, this share will automatically increase. And when this share automatically increases, the inequality will become lesser and lesser in the society because the size of the pie, the size of the pie has been increased. So, अगर हम अभी देखेंगे कि इसको हम किस तरह से इस आर्टिकल को एनालाइज करेंगे. सो द फर्स्ट पॉइंट विच द आर्टिकल डज इज, द फर्स्ट पॉइंट विच द आर्टिकल डज इज, इट इज टॉकिंग अबाउट एन ऑक्सफैम रिपोर्ट, and this Oxfam report is basically focused on, there are two organizations who have done it, Oxfam International and Oxfam India. They have done this report. This report is to analyze the inequality in income. But what is happening is the analysis in the report has happened on the yardstick, जो कि मेजरमेंट का मेथड है, on the yardstick of wealth, जो कि इरोनियस है, जो कि इरोनियस है. एंड देन एक द मिड पार्ट ऑफ द आर्टिकल इज टॉकिंग अबाउट वेल्थ टैक्स. So, जो कि वेल्थ टैक्स के ऊपर ये पीपल वर being assessed, the super rich people were being assessed. So wealth tax का कुछ डेटा दिया हुआ है, and the data supporting wealth tax is discouraging. That is discouraging. So wealth tax से काम नहीं हो रहा है, right? And the government of India had to abolish the wealth tax finally. Okay. And ये practical difficulties क्यों हुआ है? Practical difficulties have happened because this is extremely complicated. The wealth tax is extremely complicated. It is extremely complicated, and at the same time, it also has been not properly done by the central bank. not done by the central banks, right? Uh, what really matters in economic growth and the creation of pathways to economic mobility. So there is a word called economic mobility. तो इकोनॉमिक मोबिलिटी को हमें ध्यान देना है कि कैसे हमारा इकोनॉमी ऑन द डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स, राइट, हाउ इट कैन मूव है, राइट, ऑन डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स, how it can move. So this is something which we have to look at, right? And the next thing on which the article has focused on is that economic growth is unavoidable. So economic growth is unavoidable. ये कैसे होगा? ये कैसे होगा? This will happen when we have, right, policies which takes care of hurdles, जो कि रोड ब्लॉक्स, जो कि रास्ते का दरार जो है, राइट, फॉर ग्रोथ, हर्डल्स जो हैं उसको हटाना पड़ेगा, उसको हटाना पड़ेगा. It has to focus on growth for every section of the society. This is the solution in the analysis. Right? और थर्ड थिंग जो करना पड़ेगा, दैट इज एनकरेज ideas and allow them to be implemented through easy business policies. So these are the things which are required for the analysis for reducing the inequality and helping everyone grow in the economy. So this was the first article. The second article is on vaccination. Jabs and rights. This is a very important article which we need to focus upon in today's discussion. Vaccine mandates. Vaccine mandates are necessary in some cases but can't be linked to delivering welfare benefits. Like what we are seeing is যে যারা ভ্যাকসিন নিচ্ছে না তাদের পাবলিক প্লেসে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় ঢুকতে দেওয়া হচ্ছে না, ট্রাভেল করতে দেওয়া হচ্ছে না, রাইট, গ্যাদারিংয়ে আসতে দেওয়া হচ্ছে না. All these things are happening. That's okay, right? These are some cases where vaccine mandate is necessary, but it cannot be linked to delivering welfare benefits, right? এখানে দুটো জিনিস আছে, ভ্যাকসিন ম্যান্ডেট একটা, which is very important. Vaccine mandate is one thing, right? So this is important. And second is delivering welfare benefits. এই দুটো জিনিসের ওপর will be focusing on. The central's clarification in Supreme Court that it hasn't issued vaccine mandates for any purpose brings into sharp focus state governments and municipal bodies denying access to various places as well as various public services to the unvaccinated. Right. এখানে দুটো ওয়ার্ডকে we have to focus on various places and various public services, right, to the unvaccinated. So these are two words which we should focus on. Safeguarding public health is among primary responsibilities of state government and civic bodies. This is very important, right? Safeguarding public health is a primary responsibility. So safeguarding public health is a primary responsibility, no doubt about it, right? Primary responsibility of the state government and civic bodies. That's okay. To that extent, their keenness to promote vaccination and mitigate threats, mitigate means reduce. Mitigate is reduce. Mitigate is reduce, right? So, mitigate threats to public health is understandable. এটা বোঝা যাচ্ছে. As we have argued before, public health concerns on infectious spread must sometimes override individual rights when it comes to an epidemic. We will understand this a little. Right. This is saying that public health concerns. Let us finish uh, understanding the full paragraph. Right. Therefore, restricting or denying access to public transport or to marketplaces, malls, places of work and worship is justifiable, whether done by government or private bodies. Same goes for vaccine mandates for government staff and government school teachers. সো এখানে আমরা দেখব একটা জিনিস যে ফার্স্ট প্যারাগ্রাফে বেসিক্যালি কি বলতে চাইছে ফার্স্ট প্যারাগ্রাফে বলতে চাইছে যে সেন্টার has clarified to সুপ্রিম কোর্ট যে কি ক্লারিফিকেশন দিয়েছে যে সেন্টার has not issued any compulsory vaccine mandate right for denying access to public places and benefits. So this is the first thing. However, এখানে এটাও দেখা যাচ্ছে যে it is the state or the union's responsibility to take care of citizens' health. Citizens' health, it is important, right? So in that context, it is justifiable. It is justifiable যে movements restrict করা হচ্ছে for unvaccinated people. Restricted for unvaccinated people. That's okay. That's okay, right? Especially people who are in government services, right? Or they're government school teachers. Now, from here, the article takes a slightly different turn. But it is wholly another matter when vaccination status is linked to welfare benefits. যেটা আমি বললাম। পাবলিক বেনিফিটস মানে ওয়েলফেয়ার বেনিফিটস। Now here we need to understand restriction to malls, right, theaters, all these things, okay, very good, but যদি আমরা এটাকে ওয়েলফেয়ার বেনিফিটের সাথে লিঙ্ক করে দিই তাহলে কি হতে পারে? তাহলে এটাই হতে পারে, রাইট? মধ্যপ্রদেশ linked PDS rations to vaccination. মধ্যপ্রদেশ linked PDS rations to vaccination. Now what is happening because of that? Since it linked PDS benefits, and Kerala Health Department had directed government hospitals to withhold free COVID treatment to unvaccinated patients. Now, these are two very important things. PDS ration, linking PDS rations to vaccination, and Kerala government directed the government of hospitals to withhold free COVID treatment to unvaccinated. Free COVID treatment to unvaccinated patients. Now this becomes a huge problem. Now this becomes a huge problem. Why? This becomes a huge problem. Why does this become a huge problem? Because you are doing two things. One is PDS. One is PDS ration. This is basically used by poor and very poor people. And the other one is free COVID treatment. This is also being used by poor and very poor people. Because people who are rich, they can go to private hospitals and nursing homes and they can spend hundreds and thousands and lakhs of rupees. But this free COVID treatment for the poor and very poor, Kerala government is denying access for people who are unvaccinated. A poor person's right to PDS rations, a poor person's right to PDS rations pose little threat to public health. Now this is a very important thing. আজকে যদি একটা গরিব মানুষ সে হয়তো ভ্যাকসিন নেয়নি, right, and that can be because of several factors. It can be because voluntarily সে নেয়নি, কিন্তু অনেক সময় দেখা গেছে যে people in India, they are running from pillar to post to get a free vaccine and they're not being able to get an access to it because of various reasons, because of huge demand of the vaccine, because of shortage of vaccines, etc., etc., right? তো সেই জায়গাতে সেই লোকটাকে যদি আমি খাবার না দিই, রেশন যদি না দিই যেটা সে ফ্রিতে পায়, বা যদি তার কোনো কারণে সিমটমস কিছু হয়ে থাকে, নট অনলি কোভিড বাট আদার ডিজিজেস, আর সে যেহেতু কোভিড ভ্যাকসিন নেয়নি বলে তাকে হসপিটালে ট্রিটমেন্টের অ্যাক্সেস দেওয়া হবে না, দিস ইজ ইনহিউম্যান, রাইট? আর সে লোকটা যদি আজকে পিডিএস রেশন না পায়, যেটা বলছে a poor person's right to PDS rations poses little threat to public health. This cannot be directly related. If he is going out, if he is mixing with people, if he is socializing, if he is visiting crowded place without vaccine, then he might infect or she might infect. কিন্তু সে যদি তার বেসিক ফুডটা না পায়, রেশনটা না পায়, তার সাথে পাবলিক হেলথের কোনো রিলেশন বা ডেঞ্জার টু পাবলিক হেলথ বা থ্রেট টু পাবলিক হেলথ বলে তো কিছু বোঝা যাচ্ছে না। So this is a very arbitrary decision. Denial of food rations to poor households is a terrible outcome that can't be justified on any ground. আজকে গরিব লোকেদের অনেকেরই আজকে তাদের ইনকাম যদি কিছু থাকতো, সেই ইনকামও চলে গেছে, রাইট? দে আর ইন সিভিয়ার ইকোনমিক ডিস্ট্রেস। বাট সেই লোককে আজকে আমরা যদি if we are not giving access to food because সে ভ্যাকসিন নেয়নি, তাহলে দিস ইজ এক্সট্রিমলি এক্সট্রিমলি ইনহিউম্যান অ্যান্ড এটাকে জাস্টিফাই করা যায় না। Government's duty to protect every human life can be located in the right to life under Article 21. So here we can say there is a right to life in the Constitution of India under Article 21. আর সেই রাইট টু লাইফের বেসিসে we cannot deny food or ration to the poor households. Government's duty to protect every human life under section Article 21. But more than that, denying poor citizens free treatment is a travesty of a state's basic duty. Travesty means violation or deviation, সরে যাওয়া, हट जाना, right? Violation or deviation is a travesty of a state's basic duty. State's basic duty is to provide food and shelter, if not clothes, food and shelter. So this is a basic travesty. তাকে খেতে দিচ্ছি না যেহেতু সে ভ্যাকসিন নেয়নি বলে, because সে ফ্রি রেশনটা পায়, ফ্রি ট্রিটমেন্ট অ্যাট গভর্নমেন্ট হসপিটালস পায়, আর সেই জন্যই সে বেঁচে থাকতে পারে। A better off citizen who is unvaccinated can access private health care, যেটা আমি বললাম। যারা অর্থনৈতিকভাবে সচ্ছল এবং সক্ষম তারা প্রাইভেট হেলথ কেয়ারের হেল্প নিতে পারে। বেসিক টেস্ট অফ হিউম্যাননেস therefore says a low income Indian can't be denied public health care. So the basic test of humanness is low income citizen cannot be denied public health care. Otherwise আমাদের public health care বলছি কেন এটা? It could have been only private health care where people have to pay and they have to get their treatment done, right? So second paragraph is the central idea of the article. Here what is saying about the blocking of access to ration and public treatment for unvaccinated poor people. Unvaccinated poor people. It is talking about that. And এখানে the author counter argues saying that under Article 21, right, where there is right to life, and right to life কখন হবে? যখন সে ফুড পাবে and health care পাবে। The two most important things to live, the two most important things to live. So she right to life is being challenged by blocking ration and public treatment, right? And this becomes a travesty of a state's basic duty. State's basic duty is to protect the people of the state. তো সেইখানে সেই জিনিসটা স্টেট করছে না। আর এখানে the challenge is on the basic humanness, because you are doing it with the poor people. You're doing it with the poor people. So the state and the union must take care of them. The state and the union must take care of them. They cannot deny access. India's pool of unvaccinated plus partially vaccinated is a worrying large. So there are around 135 crore people. So around 65% of them are fully vaccinated. some 90% plus are single vaccinated. So there are a lot of people, around 25% people are not yet vaccinated. So it's a huge number of people who are worried, right? 65% fully vaccinated, 90%. So 10% also is a big number. Around 13.5 crore people are still moving around at large, right? যারা এখনো ভ্যাকসিন নেয়নি, and that's a big problem, right? And states are right to be concerned, and definitely a vaccine na newate, the different variants which are coming in, right? After the Delta, the Omicron variant, which is much more infectious, that is causing a cause of concern for the states, which the states have full rights to be concerned. But they should keep welfare benefits out of the equation. একটা হচ্ছে vaccinated আর unvaccinated population, vaccinated and unvaccinated population. এটা একটা part. And the second part is denial of basic living rights, right? যেখানে একটা হচ্ছে food, the other one is healthcare. So these two things, they don't go hand in hand. They don't go hand in hand, right? They don't go hand in hand. So it has to be taken care of. And most important, they must do a lot more to convince zero dosers and one dosers to get those jabs. Now, this is something which is the most important part of the editorial article, which says jabs and rights. Okay, so rather than denying access, which can be also challenged in the court, and the Supreme Court has intervened, we would rather look at boosting vaccination programs. So this is the solution which the editor is trying to give at the end of the article, right? The more you vaccinate people, the better it is for the infection to be curbed and controlled. আর আরো যেটা সুবিধা হবে সেটা হচ্ছে যে এই লোকেরাই এদেরকে তখন আর এই সমস্ত denial of access to food and healthcare করার প্রয়োজনই পড়বে না। So the focus of the government has to get channelized towards that part. And most important, they must do a lot more to convince zero dosers and one dosers to get those jabs. So ক্যাম্পেইনটা যেরকম প্রথম দিকে শুরু হয়েছিল, সেই ক্যাম্পেইনটার আস্তে আস্তে মোমেন্টাম লস হচ্ছে, সেই ক্যাম্পেইনটাকে আবার ফিরিয়ে আনতে হবে on a state and a union level. This should now include serious plans about taking vaccines to the people. So people were actually going to the different hospitals, to the different clinics, the सरकारी clinics, बट वहां पर क्या हो रहा था, बहुत जगहों में वैक्सीन लोगों को मिल नहीं रहा था। तो अभी सरकार को क्या करना है, rather than asking these poor people to come down to healthcare centers and hospitals, the vaccine should go to them. So say suppose you have a slum area where a vaccination camp is set up on a particular day, which the government is doing, but that has to be ramped up, that has to go up as far as the numbers are concerned. If the government is conducting, the state government is conducting around 50 camps in a state, they should go take it up to 500 camps, where these poor people will automatically get vaccinated in whichever area they live, whether it's houses, slums, whatever, and naturally then the spread of the vaccine will be more, and the government will not have to think about stopping their rights. So if we look at the article, if you look at the article and if you have to summarize the article, so what would be the summary? What would be the summary? The summary would be that First is safeguarding public health is a priority for the state and the union government. So this is the first thing, right? And to do this, restrictions and curbs এই দুটো জিনিস are to be used. এটা completely justifiable, এখানে কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, right? However, जब ये safeguard, so the second point in summary is the error or incorrect judgment, which otherwise is also called fallacy, in the policy of linking vaccines to basic rights like food and healthcare. This is something which is a fallacy which the people have to take care. So basic rights like food and healthcare, linking them to vaccine and stopping it for people, right? So the solution which the editor is trying to give here is that rather than using this fallacious policy, the government should ramp up vaccination, and the best way to do that is door to door vaccination, because poor people, they don't have the money, they don't have the connections which are basically used for getting the shots at government hospitals or government dispensaries in the rural areas. So if vaccines are taken to them, then in that case all of them will be vaccinated, and naturally যখন ভ্যাকসিনেশন বেশি হতে শুরু করবে তখন এই ধরনের যে কার্ভস আছে, এই ধরনের যে রেস্ট্রিকশনস আছে, এই কার্ভস বা রেস্ট্রিকশনস গুলোকে আমাদের ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করার প্রয়োজন পড়বে না। So today we have covered two articles, right? The first article which talks about inequality and how inequality can be reduced and controlled, not by taxing the rich but by creating more opportunities, equal opportunities across the cross section of the society, right? And for that, allowing small businessmen and entrepreneurs to open up more number of business houses, right? More number of new ideas have to be implemented, and thereby the rising inequality. When we have more number of jobs, when we have better income, when we have disposable income in the pockets of the people, then definitely this rising inequality will gradually reduce, and there would be a more or less homogeneous income which will happen among large section of the society. Definitely যারা ধনী, যারা পয়সাওয়ালা লোক, তারা থাকবে এবং তারা আরো বেশি পয়সা করতে পারবে। কিন্তু এই যে আজকের দিনে the rich is becoming richer, the poor is becoming poorer, right? এই জিনিসটার মধ্যে যে গ্যাপটা, সেই গ্যাপটা ধীরে ধীরে কমে আসবে। The second one is about denying rights, the basic rights of people, the poor people in the country. And why is this denial happening? Because they are unvaccinated. এটা একটা fallacious policy। এই পলিসিটা একদম গোড়াতেই একটা ভুল রয়েছে। এই দুটোকে লিঙ্ক করা আদৌ উচিত নয়। Rather, the government, the state governments, they should try to improve on the vaccination plan program, and সেটা করে যাতে ম্যাক্সিমাম লোক ভ্যাকসিন পায় এবং গরিব মানুষরা স্পেশালি যারা প্রাইভেট ফ্যাসিলিটিসের সাহায্য নিতে পারে না, সেই ধরনের লোকেরা যাতে তাদের বেসিক রাইটসে কোনো ধরনের ডিনায়াল না হয়, বাট অ্যাট দ্য সেম টাইম ভ্যাকসিনেটেড হয়ে যায়, যাতে করে কি তারা ইনফেকশনটাকে আর ছড়াতে না পারে। সেই জিনিসটা সবকটা স্টেট গভর্নমেন্ট আন্ডার দ্য মনিটরিং অফ দ্য ইউনিয়ন গভর্নমেন্ট, সেন্ট্রাল গভর্নমেন্ট, সেটা দেখা উচিত। আদারওয়াইজ গরিব মানুষদের বেসিক রাইট ছিনিয়ে নিলে ইট ইজ আ ভায়োলেশন অফ আর্টিকেল 21 of the Indian Constitution. So, this much for today. I would like all our students to basically understand these topics in details the way I'm explaining, and then use it in their general studies class, in their reading comprehension class, and become more analytical এই ক্লাসটা ডিএনএ ক্লাসটা করার উদ্দেশ্য হচ্ছে অ্যানালিটিক্যাল স্কিলস বাড়ানো, ক্রিটিক্যালি রিভিউ করা কোনো একটা ইস্যুকে, সাবজেক্টকে, যেটা নট অনলি ইন ব্যাঙ্কিং, এসএসসি, রেলওয়েজ এসব জায়গাতে লাগবে, সিভিল সার্ভিসেসেও কিন্তু এর একটা মেজর রোল আছে, যেখানে এসে লেখা হবে বা আদার থিংস করা হবে, সেই জিনিসগুলোতে একটা ভালো রোল আছে। এবং যেহেতু এটা প্রত্যেক দিন হচ্ছে, আমরা যদি প্রত্যেক দিন না হলেও দুটো চারটে করে রেকর্ডিং আমরা শুনতে পাই, বাণিক বাংলা ইউটিউব চ্যানেলে এটা রেকর্ড হচ্ছে, এবং যে কোনো সময় তোমরা এই ভিডিওগুলো দেখতে পারো এবং দেখে you can benefit from it. So this much for today. Once again, this was Rahul Dev from Vanik Bangla. Thank you very much. Goodbye and have a good day ahead.